Is this okay for you?
Yes. I'm ready to embark on the best episode ever.
Woo! It's absolutely the best. Oh, wait, let's do a thumbnail. Should we just do like 5?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
high
5.
No, that looks bad. No. How about
Peaches.
peaches? Wait, no, let's not do peaches. I think it looks kind of weird, actually.
We'll do a high 5.
I don't think that works either. Okay, what do we do?
Let's
Let's do the heart hand.
my goals. Oh.
Does it make
That's
sense?
cute.
Does it make sense for episode 5?
The little Korean heart. I like that.
Because it's like a cute episode.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually devastating, but it's both.
It has a lot of very cute moments.
Okay, I think that works. Great. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Bekah, and here you can find bite-sized inspo, and this is my sister Katie.
Hi, everyone.
And you have caught us on our 3rd video of our sister chat series, where we are chatting all about The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3. The first video of the series, we covered episodes 1 and 2. Second video, we covered episodes 3 and 4. But we figured with episode 5 dropping earlier this week, there was just way too much that we wanted to cover, and I also just couldn't wait to chat to you about it.
Absolutely.
So,
our favorite episode yet.
Our favorite episode yet.
We haven't been able to discuss.
We have not discussed it all, and there's so much
to
discuss. Could not even wait any longer. So let's dive into episode 5.
Yay!
Let's go. We have started each video so far chatting about the title of the episode, and I think this was quite a loaded title.
Yeah.
So, title of episode 5, Last Dance. And I'm sure you saw Jenny Han actually posted in her Instagram stories definitions of Last Dance, which I thought were quite revealing. So I thought I would just read them really quick, and then maybe we can have a little chat about it. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, so what she posted is from Wiktionary, Wikipedia's dictionary. Last Dance, plural last dances, a last run suggesting a sense of nostalgia, a final romantic date or time together, the last game or tournament in which a team or the members of a team play or compete together before retirement or moving to another team, a final performance or a final act.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. I did think Last Promise. I was really banking on that, thinking it would really be about a last moment with Susannah, which is heartbreaking. I really liked Last Dance, though, because of all of the different meanings that were revealed throughout the episode. And by the end, there were so many different connections. But I think it ending with a dance
with her and Jeremiah.
It made me think, wow, this is kind of their last dance per se. Like, it's obviously they were practicing the first dance for their wedding, but it was very symbolic because by it being titled Last Dance, I was like, oh my gosh, we're seeing the beginning of the end of this relationship. And so it was so interesting that she actually even included them practicing the dance. And then I think also the callbacks to prom throughout this episode, it made me think there's a whole flashback to, you know, their time before prom and them talking about prom before Conrad and Belly broke up and when they were still together and there was still so much like love between them and so much excitement for prom. And it made me think, oh, that was such an important scene that she included. Like, Last Dance is referring to like prom and kind of their last moments before the breakup when they were still together. Their last dance. And then Jeremiah and Belly's last dance. And then I think as a sports lover, actually Last Dance is used for a lot of different sports, but specifically for like college basketball, we often use like Last Dance when it comes to March Madness. It was also the name of like a Michael Jordan documentary for their basketball team and like the end of an era, essentially. So I think it's very interesting that you mentioned like changing teams. But obviously, there's like Team Conrad and Team Jere. So I think that's also very astute, I think, in terms of like having that sports connotation.
I was thinking even throughout this whole episode, it felt kind of like her and Conrad were having a little bit of a dance, like trying to figure out
their chemistry and their relationship.
Exactly.
I think so too.
So I was like, that was really clever of another meaning of it, of them just dancing around each other. Like, especially beginning to the end of the episode, it goes from like a lot of tension and a lot of like trying to kind of avoid, especially on Conrad's part, right? And then kind of the inevitable them coming together, all of the chemistry. So I thought that was really interesting too.
No, I think that's exactly right. And I think trying to find their footing, because obviously they have been separated for a long time. They haven't been able to talk that candidly in a long time. And you can see like throughout just one day how open and like vulnerable they can be with one another again. And I just really miss that in a relationship. And you can just see like how at ease they are and like, comfortable sharing things that are pretty hard. And things like, especially on Conrad's side, he hasn't been able to share with anyone really else in the family unit. So I found, it's kind of them, just even their like physical choreography, like trying to figure out that, and then a dance in terms of, you know, kind of trying to figure out where they are, but kind of knowing like they're both still so supportive and like encouraging of one another. And so I did feel like even though the ending is quite heartbreaking for Conrad, it's like you are able to see the level of care that they still have for one another. The episode was also, in terms of a zoom out, I also just loved how intentional all the moments were. Obviously Jenny like directed this episode, and I could really feel that. So in terms of like a dance to, in terms of like the actual visuals, cinematography, I was like, oh, I feel like this totally encompasses like all of that as well. So a lot of layers. I would almost say this title to me feels the most
nuanced,
comprehensive of everything, and so many different layers that have occurred. So kind of actually, it made me rethink all of the other titles that have occurred now.
Me too. I did write them all down. We have Last Season, Last Christmas, Last Supper, Last Stand, Last Dance. And I had seen one person post about, is this a series of lasts for Jeremiah? And I was rethinking that. To me, it doesn't quite make sense. Especially Last Christmas, because I felt like that was so Belly Conrad's Christmas.
But I think the emphasis on last is interesting, because I think when I was thinking about last previously, I was not thinking like last in relation to Jeremiah. I agree that I don't think the titles are all like her last with Jeremiah per se, but I think it's more the focus on like last, when usually a wedding is the beginning. You're not thinking like last. You're thinking like the start. And so I think this emphasis on last is interesting. And I do think like some of the titles to come, it is possible it also might be more related to Jere, but I think that Jenny has done a great job in terms of it applying to multiple characters.
I think so too.
I think each title, she has made it really like thematic to the content of the episode. So I think Last Dance, it would have been hard actually for us to have predicted that, I think. But once I saw the episode, I was like, that makes perfect sense.
So clear.
I'm curious if Jenny will, I mean, that's a very easy like Google search, but it did kind of like show us her thinking a little bit more. And so I am wondering if she'll add like more of those kind of behind the scenes like moments in the future. Also, for some of the scenes, because she directed it, like there's some notes that are available now online as well. So I think just for this episode overall, there's a little bit more behind the curtain that we're able to see, even in terms of some of the guidance they were given.
Her notes really to the actors and things, which is very cool. How about we dive right into the episode then, just to start off. What did you think of that opening sequence? Picking right where we left off with Belly Conrad, that bombshell of the ending for episode 4.
I think the opening, it really did draw a lot of connections, I think, to me, to The Notebook, which I think people have been making more connections with.
Working on the house.
But I got real Noah vibes from like that opening scene. And I think now there's a number of clips that have a lot of parallels. And even throughout this episode later, I think, with Belly and Conrad like drinking and like having that whole discussion, it was very reminiscent, I think, of like Allie and Noah later when they reunite after it's been a long time. And so that's been cool. I feel like that's very intentional that Jenny has put that in there. And I think the other thing I did notice was how Belly had like changed back into like a one-piece swimsuit. And then I was like, that does look like similar. And I think a lot of people had said that they think it's the same swimsuit as what she wore the previous 4th of July when her and Conrad almost kissed. And to me, the patterns look very similar. So I think it could be the same swimsuit. And if that's the case, that's wild. Like
that is wild.
That was really cool to see.
So the scene where in the first season where False God by Taylor Swift Swift is playing, and then Jeremiah almost throws a firework at them because they're about to kiss.
July. Yeah. And I got from the very start of this, I was like, there's a lot of parallels, I felt like, to the 4th of July episode, even with the ending as well. Yeah. And so I felt like from the very beginning, I was like, I'm thinking it might be similar. And then other people have also been chattering online about that. So even if it's not the same swimsuit, I thought it was very similar and gave me a callback to that. Yes. And I just think, again, just kind of, I think Jenny was having us kind of remember a previous 4th of July. Yeah. So those were like my initial 2 thoughts. I was like, whoa, I'm getting Noah vibes from the Notebook.
And 4th of July.
I also just thought it was really sweet that he was like working on the house.
It is really sweet, especially when given the fact that literally when his father calls and he's saying, I'm working on the roof. And his dad immediately is like, I can send someone out there, right? It's like not necessary. Yeah. They have the means to be able to do it without it, but he wants to and he's able to.
Yes. I thought that was very sweet. I also felt like it was kind of, you know, when things are out of your control and you just kind of want to immerse yourself in something else.
And something physical, I think.
Yeah. To get your mind off things. I think it's kind of like, there's so much going on right now. I'm really uncomfortable. Yeah. But it was really sweet that he was working on the house to like help with the wedding. Yes. And I think the call itself, I was also surprised by. I didn't anticipate that we would just start off already with like Conrad's dad, Mr. Fisher, already calling him and then having that discussion. And he's literally like on the roof. Like, I think it was so hard, I think, obviously, for him to kind of talk about the wedding as he's like looking at Belly. But I think it really again got to the point where, and he even mentions this in his own narration, where it's kind of like when it comes to her, like he's gonna do whatever it takes to make her happy. Yeah. So I felt like that was also really cool directing, how like he was on the roof, like watching her, talking about this wedding, asking like if Mr. Fisher should support the wedding. And it's like so hard for him internally, but he's still giving like the go ahead. Yeah. And he knows how much impact his words have. Yeah. Like, I think if Conrad had said, like, please.
It's crazy. Put a stop to this.
This is an insane idea. You need to absolutely stop them. But he's really real with him and it's kind of like, these are like the consequences if you do put your foot down. And he's right. And I think, again, it just shows, even with like the previous episode where he got more involved, even though it hurts him personally, he's thinking about, you know, Belly at the end of the day.
And I think, and thinking about his father and his brother too, because he's like, to have that amount of care, given especially what we were talking about last video and just how complicated that relationship is with him and his brother and all of the comparison in his relationship with his father. And I think for him to prioritize, especially when his father is saying like, I lost you, and for him to be trying to protect that relationship, even though he's lost it himself. Like, that's really selfless.
It's honestly crazy that Mr. Fisher is even calling Conrad. Yeah. Like, that's inappropriate. That's crazy. And again, it just shows his lack of thoughtfulness. And that he doesn't even know, like, what Conrad might be feeling.
And
because,
going through.
Again, he forgot that they even dated or didn't know. But it's like...
It's crazy.
Everyone knew that they had this connection. So I just think, again, him even calling, like, is pretty hurtful.
Yes.
Like, and the fact that he was... taking the call and knowing the impact his words had, and he still said, like, you know, you should support if you don't want to lose Jere.
Yeah. Just going back a little bit to that opening scene as well. Yeah. I thought it really reminded me instantly of the opening of season 2, because that opens up with Belly having this daydream about Conrad, right? Yes. And this is Conrad's daydreaming about Belly, and then there's that kind of sharp jolts back into reality.
I forgot. And
I just found that so interesting that they both think of each other as this dream that cannot live in reality. And for both of them, Belly and Jeremiah is reality, right? Yes. But they're both dreaming about each other. They both think about each other in this way. Yeah. And I thought even the way that was shot and the way that they're talking about each other in those opening sequences felt really similar to me.
I think you're totally right. And I think what was so cool about this whole episode that was apparent just from the start is because it is from Conrad's perspective, you're really seeing Belly like from his perspective. And there's just this glow and it's just warmth that you just have not seen applied, obviously, in the same way in the past, because it's viewing it through his eyes and like a guy who's like in love.
Yeah,
and
it's lovely.
That was really sweet. And I just think like seeing it through his eyes, you're kind of like, oh wow,
he really cares for her. And it's true. I feel like she looks so beautiful in this episode particularly. Like her face is glowing. Obviously there's the lighting and everything, but I think even just her, like obviously Lola's always gorgeous. But she looked like particularly gorgeous in this episode. And I think you're right. The lighting, especially throughout the whole episode, is so warm and golden. And I think there's this line in the first season where Laurel says to Susannah, to Belly, Conrad has always been the son.
Exactly.
And then you can see in this, like, it's the same reciprocal. Like, to Conrad, Belly is also the son. And that's lovely.
I know. And I think it's that, obviously, Conrad has always been put on this pedestal for Belly. But I'm kind of, you're so right that, like, from Conrad's point of view, he's kind of like, Belly is, like,
they both
unreachable.
See each other like that. And I think also with the whole dream sequence, it's like they are on the same page. They don't think they are, but they both think of each other in such a similar way.
Yeah, and I think again it's just kind of like the impact of dreams. It's really things that you're trying to push down, but obviously your subconscious, like his feelings are there. And I think this whole episode was just so interesting because we barely heard from Conrad this whole season intentionally, and to get into his mind a little bit, it's obvious he's fighting internally like every day. And this is why I think, you know, his comments about like I had to stay away because it's just too hard to be in like the same vicinity. Like the pool is too high for him. And honestly it's true because even in one day spending together, like they were so magnetic. And so honestly, like the strength of that pool is so high.
Let's talk a little bit about that opening sequence of Belly and Conrad in the house, because I feel like it's so good the way that their chemistry kind of evolved even throughout this episode. It's wild to me to think that this was all in one day. It feels like a lot. But I feel like they were so good at portraying this dance around each other, and it felt very kind of tense. And Belly is like, I didn't want to bother you, like I didn't want, and Conrad's like, I got all this food for you, like why didn't you eat it? And it feels very like they're both trying to be very respectful and give each other space and not cross any kind of lines.
No, I felt the same, and I think it's kind of Conrad is still looking out for her. But I think she does know, even though he has been receiving this well, this is why she was so nervous about even telling him, I think. And I think again she didn't really imagine like they would be in this one-on-one situation as much. Obviously she came to the beach house.
And it wasn't even supposed to happen, right? Like Jeremiah was supposed to be there.
Exactly.
At least for this day. Her plan for this day was her and Jere were going to be tackling wedding planning together. And it kind of gets derailed from the start. So
but I think you're right. It was the tonal shift, I think, was really excellent to show kind of there is some awkwardness. Understandably, there's been distance. You know, she's kind of heard things more through the grapevine. She hasn't heard directly from Conrad. But then you really see again kind of like the trust in the East throughout the episode rebuild up. And also you can see I think Conrad really fighting his inner demon.
For sure. And I think that was so revealing, right? Because there was that line where he says even from the beginning, his first instinct has always been to try to fix whatever he can for her. Obviously, he's really trying to look out for her when he tells her whatever I buy, like, is yours kind of thing. But when she's asking him for a favor, like, can you just give me a ride? He's like, I can't cross that line. Like, I just need to give distance and space. And you can see that internal struggle where even he's watching her with the bike and he like calls out to her, but too late.
Know. But I also thought even him saying no, though, it was also trying to, I didn't take it as a no as like, you're being rude or like, you're not wanting to help. Actually, it was him trying to like protect kind of their relationship, because I think he was kind of like, if I say yes, like I'm gonna get looped back into this and I can't hide my feelings. Like I literally cannot hide my feelings. So he was trying to do that, like I think to give her space, to give her respect actually. But at the end of the day too, he doesn't want to see her struggle. So I think him saying no originally too did not feel actually that harsh in some cases. It felt more like I'm saying no because I can't be around her because of my feelings.
And I think he literally says it's not my job to take that place in her life, right?
Yeah.
He's very
like
intentional.
I've lost that role.
Yeah, I've lost that right.
Yeah.
Like that's someone else's responsibility and privilege now to have, and so I can't step into that. So I think I completely agree with you. I think that's really intentional and thoughtful of him, and him really trying to just be like respectful.
Yes. I loved the bike scene. I didn't imagine that would be like the first flashback that we got.
Yeah.
One, it reminded me a little bit of like To All the Boys, kind of with Laura Jean also riding her bike. I liked kind of that connection. And then that flashback was so sweet in terms of them when they were kids. And again, just kind of shows like it's been years where Conrad has like always looked out for Belly and really cared and noticed. And I think, again, it just shows like Jeremiah, Steven, they're young as well, but they're kind of like, when Belly is having struggles, they're kind of like, we're going to go ahead. You're like, you're too slow. Like, we just want to have fun. And Conrad is kind of like, no, like, I want you to be a part of this as well. Like, I don't want to leave you behind. And I felt like that whole scene had a lot of hidden meanings.
I think so too.
I think it also, to me, I felt like it was a parallel to their conversation later about Paris. Because in the flashback, she's scared, you know, to kind of bike without the training wheels. And he's kind of like, I've got you. And then it's kind of that classic, actually like parental moment where you like let someone go. And to me, I was like, oh, this really feels later in the episode when he's kind of like study abroad, like it would allow you to like really grow, kind of giving that same like support, but also like release into like you know, forging your own paths and adventures. And to me, it felt like a direct parallel.
I agree completely. I actually wrote down in my notes when I was watching that scene, there's a scene where at first when he's holding on to her and she says to him, promise you won't let go. And he says, I promise.
I promise.
Yes. And then they have that whole sequence. And then as she's getting more confidence, then she says, you can let go now. And then he lets go. And I felt like that was so meaningful as well. I was like, that he would take both roles of like, I'm going to be there and support you when you need me. And when you need me to let go, I'm going to let go.
Yes.
And I was like, that's so meaningful.
Because I also feel like for Belly with Paris, with study abroad, honestly, she had come to terms that she was ready and prepared to make that next step. And honestly, Jere basically said, I actually don't want you to go.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, when she started to have some of those concerns, he was like, actually, you should stay.
Yeah.
And so it feels like that moment on the bike, if it was Jere, he wouldn't have let go.
Yeah, he would have clutched on.
Yeah, which basically it's just her whole development.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of the relationship, it's just like her own development as a person.
Yeah.
It's really being held back with Jere. But with Conrad, she can... she can really make progress.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think I've sensed, especially we saw in this episode, and I think throughout even the last couple of seasons as well, Belly has this tendency that I think so many of us can relate to of not actually saying what she means. She often says the opposite of what she means because she doesn't want to bother and she doesn't want to put things on other people. I think that's so relatable. But constantly, even in this episode itself, there's so many instances where she says something, but you can tell she means the opposite. And Conrad, every single time, reads it and does what she needs, not what she says. And I feel like Jeremiah is so often shown as doing the opposite.
Unbelievable.
He just listens to what she says, even when her face is saying the exact opposite, and he can't read it, and he just does what she says. And it's just showing like who can actually tell like what she needs and does what she needs.
Absolutely. And I think, no, you're so right. I think that she really does care about, you know, like other people's feelings and impact. And so many times, I feel like she's not wanting to put the extra burden or like, even when Conrad was like offering, she didn't want to be a hassle. But like, it is clear.
It's so clear. I think obviously she asks him for a ride at first and he gives distance at first, but then when he sees her struggling with loads of bags. He comes to her. He does the U-turn.
The U-turn was good.
The U-turn was good.
Yeah, I think for a second I was like, maybe he will pass.
Yeah, but
you
no,
know.
he can't help himself. And then he is like, get in the car. And she's very like, you said you can't do it. And then I even loved that moment where she says, you take the bags, I'll take the bike. And then he just like grabs the bike.
Oh, yeah,
because the bike is obviously so much harder to handle.
I know.
I'm like, so sweet, so like manly, right? Like he's gonna grab this bike, get it into the car.
And I also liked how she drove.
Yes.
How she was like, I'll drive. And I think it just shows kind of like her own development as well. Like she can also take charge. She can also take the lead. It's a very balanced relationship.
I think so too, because I feel like throughout that episode you see them both driving, right?
Yes,
Whereas we've never
always
seen
a passenger princess with Jere.
Yeah,
which is fine if you want to be passenger princess.
Cute.
But it's nice too that it's kind of like they both, you know, I think it's supposed to symbolize like they both can kind of lead and it's a more balanced relationship.
I think so too.
And I think I want to talk about the moment when they first get into the car. And Harry Styles, Cherry plays. And what is interesting is a lot of people have noticed that it seems to be playing from the car itself.
Yes.
So it's like playing from Belly's like
playlist. Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, which is because they're like listening to it in the car, which is like even more meaningful.
Why are you listening to that, Belly?
But perfect song. I was waiting for that. I couldn't believe that it was actually featured. But I think their car scenes, I just loved the conversation that they had because there was so much depth that we haven't gotten. A lot of things that I had been hoping that they would talk about, but I wasn't sure. But then they started to really be very vulnerable and share a lot of things and just be honest with one another. Yeah,
I loved the car scenes too. And I also loved how there was this natural progression. It felt like when she first got in the car, it was kind of like just natural, fun little banter. Chit-chat, kind of like little fun, like making fun of each other a little bit. I have to say, I have done a Lord of the Rings reference in every single video so far. And this time I feel so legitimate in saying it because the way I screamed inside when he said it's a Lord of the Rings thing, I was like, I knew I loved him for a reason.
Conrad is a certified Lord of the Rings fan.
And that
green flags all around.
Green flags all around.
The fact that he collected stamps. Very,
so
very cute.
The nerds are always the best, guys.
They are. And also, looking up that stamp, it's a very expensive stamp.
You looked it up? How much was it?
It's like in the thousands.
Oh my God.
So I wish he still had that stamp collection. But maybe people were like, maybe he's been using it for med school.
To cover his cost. That would be very thoughtful.
I think just, very nerdy and very sweet.
So sweet. And the fact that they're able to kind of like
roast each
joke
other.
Joke with each other is so cute. And then I loved how it kind of naturally got to this place of they're so comfortable to just start sharing with each other, right? And get a lot more deeper and more in depth into some really personal things that I feel like Conrad especially, we haven't seen him talk to with really anyone except maybe his therapist and possibly Agnes.
Exactly. And so, one, I loved how he revealed that he was starting to see a therapist.
Yeah.
This is kind of piggybacking off of a previous conversation where he had told Belly, you know, this was actually back when they were shopping also for the party in the last season where he had
a panic attack.
He told Belly, oh, actually, you know, that whole situation at the funeral, it wasn't because I was like interested in another girl. I was having a panic attack.
And she's just the first one who found me.
And I wish it was you. Yeah. And she's kind of realizing like the mental toll this is all taking on him. And so I think hearing that he has a therapist, like the panic attacks have been getting better. Like that was a great, I think, moment for him to share because that's a really personal thing. And I think obviously she cares about Conrad, and so that was really cool how he felt like safe enough to share that. And then I think obviously he's been putting on just as Belly, like Belly was very astute, I think, in this whole conversation because she was kind of like, you know, you've been having to put on this perfectionist hat, you know, for so long, and it's like okay to just like it's okay, like we all, you know, no one's perfect. And so I think that really allowed him to then open up about like, oh, actually, like I
lost my job. I got fired. Yeah. And that was really nice to see him open up and be honest about something that it felt like he was keeping it really close to the vest with everyone, right? Like he didn't feel like he could even share that kind of information.
Yeah, because everyone, especially his dad, is putting him on such a pedestal still, not really treating him as a human. You know, not everything is always going to go his way, even though like he put so much time and effort.
Yeah.
And so I think it was also really cool how like then he got the response from Belly that like actually it's okay.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be perfect, and I don't need you to be perfect.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
And so I think that also kind of bursts through like the facade that he has felt like he's had to put on. And he's like, I can actually be real with her.
Yes. Yeah. And I also really liked how later, and she tells him, maybe the next thing you should tackle with your therapist is your hero complex.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't have a hero complex. And then she just gives him a look, and then he's like, oh, wait, I do. And I love, again, just that interplay between them where she is able to help him realize things about himself that he himself couldn't even really work through, and that he has the comfortability and trust in her to like accept what she says and really think on it and be like, actually, no, you're right. And I do need to work on that. And like, you know.
But I think it was helpful for him to like reveal, you know, like I did lose my job instead of her being, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, that's.
It built up to that moment for sure, I think.
It built up, and then I also think, like, the response from her being like, it's okay. Like, you're right where you need to be.
Yeah.
Like, expectations are so high, but actually, like, you've already been, like, far surpassing. And so, like, it's okay. Like, I think that Conrad has just, like, been pushing himself to the nth degree, you know? And she's kind of like, everyone else is actually way behind where you are. And, like, you're right at where you need to be. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So I think it just allowed him to have, like, more grace. I think he was maybe embarrassed to share this with folks.
Yeah.
You know? But the reception is like, it's okay. Like, you're still a great person.
Yeah.
And you're going to still be a great doctor.
Yes.
And, like, this does not mean like you won't be a great doctor. And I think there was obviously doubt and fear that were like creeping in for him, because honestly, it's really hard. Like he made one small error and then he was just, you know, that was really brutal.
Yeah.
I think, especially the circumstances.
Yeah.
So I think hearing that from someone that he knows has really like always looked up to him, he's kind of like, oh, like if Belly feels like I'm not a failure. Okay. Yeah, so I think that was huge.
Yeah.
I think one thing that did confuse me a little bit about the car conversation is for study abroad, I was anticipating that Conrad was going to have a bigger reaction to Belly saying like she wasn't going to study abroad.
Yeah.
And I am wondering if we're still going to get that later.
Yeah.
Because it didn't seem like he really knew the reasons why.
Yeah.
And I honestly was thinking we were going to get, and I kind of hope we still get this maybe, I thought we were going to get a Jess moment from Gilmore Girls.
Yes.
Why did you drop out of Yale? I thought we were going to get, why are you not going to Paris?
Yeah.
And we didn't get that. He was very encouraging, and he was like, you can go another semester.
Yeah.
But I thought we were going to get a little bit more, and I'm curious to see if they were going to circle back to that later.
Yeah.
Especially maybe after like the bachelor party.
Yes. And when he gets more context. Yeah. I was surprised too, and I thought similarly, I wondered if he was just taking it kind of at face value at what she was just saying. I feel like he didn't really have a lot of the backstory of why, and so he's just like, I'll just go with it. And I did think, because I can't remember, did that happen before or after she talked about what she wanted to do with her future?
So I think he first asked her about her masters and like like GRE and like what are your goals.
Yeah, because this was a moment I really, really liked as well, that there was this reciprocal give and take of talking about Conrad, but then her also feeling, you know, comfortable and safe to share her own dreams and goals for her future, which I feel like we really haven't seen in this whole season. And it made me, this is like the Belly that I've been waiting for all season, right? The one who's like thinking about others, thinking about the future. And I think for her to open up about like, this is how I came to do what I want to do. Like I was injured and I was so helped by my own seeing a psychologist in this sports arena. And like that made me want to do that too. And Conrad being like, that's so awesome. Like
I know it's a great fit for her.
Yeah.
So I loved hearing more of that backstory. I just think I got so much substance out of their conversations. Yeah. And I was like, this is just one day with Conrad.
I know.
And the last like 4 years with Jere, I feel like we haven't scratched the surface with like any of this.
And that's not to say like we haven't seen a lot, but it's just the
way it's depicted.
The way it's depicted in the scenes that we have been shown into an insight into their relationship. It's like night and day, the depth, right?
It feels very physical with Jere. It feels very like she's supporting him, like he's sharing his doubts, his concerns, his, you know, he's feeling a lot with his dad, obviously, insecurities and things like that. But I'm not really getting the reciprocal, you know? And so I think Jenny, again, did this very intentionally to just show us it's much more balanced. And he has the thoughtfulness to ask the follow-up questions and to have her also think about like her future. Independent from like a relationship. You know?
So wedding errands, first she goes to the bakery and asks about Jere's specifics of what he needs in a wedding cake. Incredibly specific. When did Jere become such a connoisseur? I don't know.
It's so funny because I was in my Willy Wonka era.
Oh, yeah.
You know, all those songs, and that I really felt
like this was him embracing.
I wanted the soundtrack of like one of the Willy Wonka songs to play like in the background. Unbelievable the details that he gave her. Yeah, but she goes and it's a pretty. It seems like it's a specialty bakery spot, right? And then she is asking for this really specific cake with the glaze and the cacao percentage. And obviously she's like in over her head with the details. She's like just trying her best. And then she's quoted for
$7.50.
Which honestly, I saw some like Reddit posts from bakers, and they were like, "That's extremely expensive." For what the request was.
I was gonna say it does feel very expensive. I do understand like this is kind of a tourist town.
I think it's kind of a luxury.
So
shop.
Probably maybe not the spot you should be going to if you're on a budget wedding.
But I think that's the point. It's kind of like she's completely like out of her depth, understandably, and she's having to do this all on her own.
And she's not supposed to be. He's supposed to be there.
Exactly.
Jere. So she does the cake. Kind of is like, it's a little bit much. I'll get cupcakes in the meantime.
Yeah, she's trying to problem solve.
Yeah. Good for her. Yeah. And that's when she comes out, right? And then Conrad sees her.
Yes, Conrad sees her. And then she's kind of like, well, there's a couple, like, if you have time, can we make one quick stop? And it's to the florist.
Yes.
And then when they're there, you know, I found a couple of different things that were clever, I think, about that whole scene. I think the idea, like in the wedding industry too, about like not revealing that it's a wedding because you get upcharged. And Belly's kind of like, I'm just having a really small event on the beach. And then Conrad like accidentally reveals because he's thinking about Susannah and like the florals that were used for her wedding and her bouquet, which is really sweet. But it was just funny, I think, that whole sequence because that is like very accurate, I feel like, to like bridal like situations. Where you're like trying to keep it under wraps.
Yes, absolutely. And then of course the classic mistaken to be the couple situation.
I think it's just again like a reflection of they can see the chemistry and kind of see how they're like working through it and kind of being like, oh, like that totally could be a couple. Like the care that he has. Like, so I think that reinforces kind of again, like they do make a good pair.
They do.
I thought it was really sweet how, you know, she's starting to spiral a little bit, understandably, because she's like, this is so expensive and like we don't have the money to be doing this. And she's almost starting to question again, like, is this even a good idea? You can kind of hear her start to question that. And then I think Conrad being super sweet in terms of thinking like, okay, what is the solution that would be feasible but also meaningful? And honestly, having like the hydrangeas, you know, from Susannah is way better than like any flower you could actually purchase. I think this is again the innate understanding that he has that like Belly too, it's not really revealed, but it's kind of understood that like the one thing probably that she really wants for this wedding is for it to happen at the house. So in her conversation with Jere, they're kind of like, we both have one thing. It's not clear what Belly's one thing is, but to me, I kind of read it as like, it's probably having it at the house.
I thought it was too, but then I was confused because he so readily was happy to not have it at the house.
Well,
and if that's the one thing.
Such a double standard. standard. Such a double standard.
Sure.
Yeah. So I just think having those little pieces, especially, I think the florist, she mentioned, like, do you want to have anything for the parents? And you can see in that quick moment, kind of like Belly again is still kind of mourning the loss of not even having Susannah there, but maybe her mom not being at the wedding too. And she's like, those won't be needed.
Yeah.
And I think Conrad's, problem solving in terms of having the hydrangeas is also to have like a little piece of Susannah there at the wedding.
Yeah.
So that was loaded, actually.
Yeah.
I felt like that was such a sweet and like good idea, actually.
Yeah. It was beautiful. It was so thoughtful. And it just, as you say, it just goes to show like how in tune he is with what she needs, even when she's not able to express it herself.
Yes. I think he also was not like, oh, just don't do any florals.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, oh, this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He was kind of like, okay.
How can we make
this happen?
Yeah.
And he also asked, is it okay?
Yeah.
Remember? He was like, is that okay?
So sweet.
So again, he was like checking in. So all of those little pieces. And I also loved how like Belly was like engaging in kind of like problem solving with him. Like back and forth.
Yeah, because I think a similar line is when they got back to the car and she's kind of freaking about price of stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, what can we do about this cake?
I know.
Like, let's do this to like bring down the price. I can pick it up instead of paying for delivery.
I will say for the cake, there was one moment where I was really concerned that Conrad was going to say, I will bake it. And I was like, boundaries. Like, don't put yourself through that. That is insane.
Yeah.
But even him offering to pick it up is really
sweet. Yeah. And then I loved how when she's on the call with Jere and she's like, new plan, like we're gonna try this, and he's right there like doing all the gestures with her, like they're so in tune.
And she had a good plan.
She had a good plan.
And Jere was not receptive.
Why is he so condescending?
I hated, actually, there were many elements of this episode that enraged me on Jere. But this moment where she's like explaining like how expensive it's going to be, it's just not possible, but we can compromise.
Yeah.
We can literally compromise. Yeah. And he's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, this is my one thing.
Yeah.
Which, again, to me, it just seems like such a frivolous thing out of anything for that to be your one thing.
Yeah.
And he just digs his heels in. And I'm like, you are completely absent from this. So honestly, you should get it. That really ticked me off.
It's really infuriating. And especially in contrast immediately with how you see how kind and gentle and thoughtful Conrad is being this whole time for these two.
Yes.
It comes off so badly.
Yes. And then you see the progression too of Belly then, she had plans to go to Michael's.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the whole thing. There's a huge sale.
Yeah. For the July sale, right?
For the July sale. And that was like the whole impetus of like her wanting to do errands that weekend.
Yeah.
Jere knew that. And then you see that like he's not able to follow through. And you see that, Conrad is kind of like realizing it's so nice to spend time with her, but also this is painful and I'm getting sucked back in.
Yeah.
So I need to put up the boundaries again.
Yeah.
But then again, he's seeing, how stressed she is.
Yeah, and she's literally crying. And that's what breaks him, right? Because he's in his head, he's like, don't do it.
I know.
Don't do it.
Got back on track for his boundaries.
And then he was like, wait, but I have
to. And I think he was so honest. I loved his inner monologue because he was kind of like, oh man.
I know. It's so sweet.
Yeah.
It feels so Conrad too. It's like we haven't heard his inner monologue, but it's exactly what you would imagine it would be.
Exactly. Yeah. So then them like speeding to Michael.
It's so cute.
Yeah. That whole scene, it really reminded me a lot of the scene previously where they go shopping.
This is 100% your look, Connie baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought what was really interesting is like as they're shopping, in that previous scene, he was wearing the sunflower glasses. And I also felt like sunflowers were like a big presence in this episode.
Symbol. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it just reminded me again of that easy chemistry that they had, like when they were shopping. You can see that he's, it's going really well, and then he pulls back again because he's kind of, in his head, he's kind of again like, this is real, like she's really getting married.
Yeah.
And I forgot that it's not me.
I know. That line is so insane. He's like, for a second, I forgot that I'm not the one she's getting married to. And you're just like, your heart is just broken for him.
Yeah. So I think he kept having to check in with himself, but he kept getting roped back in because of his love. But I thought that whole scene too at Michael's was really adorable, and again kind of the problem solving where she's like, oh my gosh, like things are so expensive.
Yeah.
And then I think I didn't know at first, like, the connection between the flowers, like, how they were going to connect that in, but then that was also quite important. Where they, like, joke, obviously, about, like, the fake flowers, the plastic flowers, and I was like, okay, cute. But then they come back around later in the episode, and that being a really important symbol of, like, their time right before prom when they were still together. So I thought that was also really clever.
Yeah, it's really well done.
And then I think one of the best scenes of the whole episode, after they go to Michael's, right, then they're like headed back, and he's kind of like, are you hungry?
Yeah.
You know, and then they're passing by the peaches.
Yeah.
And I think that whole scene, like, very symbolic.
Yeah.
How, you know, they pass by at first and then he's like, do you want any? And she's like, it's too late.
She says, no, we already passed it. And then he just, without a word, does the U-turn again.
And I think, again, this is to show, like, it doesn't really matter maybe how far down the path with Jere. Obviously, it's very serious right now. They're engaged.
Yeah.
But they're not married yet. And I think it's the idea where, for her, she's probably like, I'm too far down this road.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like,
it's never too late.
Yeah. So I felt like that was a big moment visually.
Yeah.
And again, him being like, without a question, turns around. And then that whole moment, it was like so golden. And I think what was interesting is, like, you know, this whole episode is from Conrad's perspective, but I loved how, you know, after she bites into the peaches, she tries the first one and it's like perfect. And then she tries
the second one.
And then she tries the second. I also felt like that was very coded to be like, okay, the second one is as good. Yeah. It's not a fluke.
Yeah.
And so if we try again,
it doesn't mean it's not going to be as good.
It actually could be even better. Yeah. Because obviously their first go around
was rough.
It was rough, and it was a timing thing. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And so I felt like that was also really symbolic.
I did too.
But I loved how, like, after they have the moment where, like, obviously he like wipes her chin, that you also see her reaction. Because I didn't think we would get that. And actually, in Jenny's notes, she said originally, like, it was just supposed to stay on Conrad. Yeah. But she had them still linger on Lola. And then they, like, really liked it, so they kept it in. And I do feel like you can see kind of a little conflict. Yeah. Where you're starting to see her crack a little bit. Yes. Where she's like, oh, wait, I'm impacted again. Yes. You know, and I think this is important. It's a little bit of a turning point for her as well.
I agree.
Like, I think with her and Jere, like, she's been really, obviously very lovey-dovey with him. And I think she has to keep, like, reminding herself, like, it's him, it's Jere. Yeah. But this felt like a little crack in the armor.
I think so. And I think it's just, it's such an intimate moment.
Yeah, but also very innocent.
Very innocent, but intimate. And I mean, it's like, who does that? No one does that, right?
Sure, and it's without a second thought that he, like,
he just does it instinctively. And it's
can't stop himself.
He can't stop himself. And it's just very sweet and very thoughtful. Like, he's like, oh, I see something that I can do for you. And I'm just gonna, at the detriment to myself in a small way of, like, my shirt will get sticky or whatever. Sure. Like, I'm going to just reach out and do it. And I think that, on top of everything else that he's been doing for her this entire day, is her kind of realizing, like, actually, this man is, like, providing no pride, no thought to himself. Like, he's going to serve me in ways that I haven't been served in the current relationship that I'm in. And I think I agree with you. I think it is a crack in the facade of what she's kind of built up her current relationship is.
Yeah. So that was a huge moment. I was really eagerly, like, awaiting that scene. I felt like it was really well executed. Yeah. And I think it now makes more sense looking back at the previous episodes. I think that Jenny was trying to, like, withhold certain moments and such, or even, like, the visuals for kind of this climax moment for this particular episode. Yeah. So I think a lot of the Conrad moments in the past, right? Like trying to give us very little so that, like, we got all of it here, and you're really in his head and you realize, like, he's been really intentional about trying to keep away. But once he's in her orbit, you know, again with the sun, it's inevitable. So that was really sweet. I'm also such a peach lover, so I love that. And then I think after she realizes a little bit, there's a little bit of the crack in her armor. I think then it's interesting how she immediately, like, oh wait, I need to get some for Jere. Like, I think she realizes there has been a moment.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like, oh man, I have to get this back.
Yeah.
And then I think he takes it to be like, oh, there wasn't a moment. But it's actually she changed the subject because there was a moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I think it's interesting, you know, when they come back to the house, I also was not anticipating maybe this whole sequence as well, which was really sweet, where like then he like made her dinner. I like the cracks that they made in terms of like his cooking.
It was really cute though, wasn't it? Because it felt very, and he even says it himself, like, how many dinners could we have like this if I hadn't made the choices that I had made? And it feels so easy, it feels so comfortable, it feels so
and so normal
natural.
Though. And so normal. Again, it felt like Christmas, where it's like it doesn't need to be anything fancy. It can be the same meal he's made every time, but it's just still like such a nice time. And then I loved how the perspective that we get from Conrad, where he's kind of like, I knew things were going south. And I think adding in that context, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
Because I think, obviously, you had a lot of sympathy for the whole prom episode in the past, but you were still, you know, a little upset or frustrated maybe with Conrad with his lack of communication.
Yeah.
Because obviously he was so struggling. But, you know, he kind of allowed Belly to, like, break up with him, right? But now, with the context of him knowing, like, Susannah was very close, you know, to her death, and he was having to carry that all. And this is again another example where, like, throughout the first season, and the second season too as well, there's things that Conrad has really been carrying just by himself, and it's like too much burden for one person to carry. This is even with the affair, like him being the only brother, knowing that's so much for him to carry. And so I think him carrying the weight of Susannah's, you know, true condition, that she wasn't getting better, like he wanted to keep, you know, he wanted to keep that from Belly, and he wanted to protect her as long as possible, but then he was bearing it all. And I think Belly says later, like, I wish, even about Susannah being sick, like, she wishes that she could have been there with him to help him through it, but she didn't know. This is another example where, like, he wanted to bear it on her behalf, but it, like, puts everything into context, because you're kind of like, he's dealing and grappling with the impending death of his mom. Prom is like the last thing
that even he should be thinking about.
And even with that, even in that scene, he's kind of like, I'm going to take care of everything for prom. Like, he's still trying.
He really tries.
And he really did try for prom. It's just obviously he wasn't in the headspace, because it's such a, you know,
too
much. A tough situation.
You really can't expect it. And I think it's so deeply unfair. And I think, and I feel also about that prom scene, like I think he was very insightful in knowing, like, I can't handle this right now, and I just need to go.
I know. He was trying to remove himself to stop there being
to make
an escalation.
And to make the experience better for her, because he's like, I'm gonna bring her down. Like, he was even in the midst of all of that, he was still trying to think of her, and it just, like, blew up in his face.
He was to protect her. Sad. But obviously from her perspective, she's not getting all of that, and she's kind of like, why isn't he letting me help him? So I think
and I think
I get both perspectives.
For sure. There's validity in that perspective, and I think there is a grace in, like, allowing someone to serve you. And he wasn't allowing that from her, right? He wasn't giving her the even option to support him. He just kind of took the burden on himself without giving her the choice. So that is on him as well, but it's just, I mean, they're so young, and it's such a difficult situation.
At the end of the day, I think he was trying to keep her world as, like, pure and as, like,
he was trying to fix things for her, like he always does,
as possible. My heart really felt for him. I think seeing that the day before, was it the day before?
Something like that. Well, maybe like a few days before, but just his, you could see his heart and desire was to, like, be there for her prom, like to cover everything, to deal with all of it for her.
I think it made it way less of a, I dropped the ball, obviously. Like, he had all the intentions. It's just these external factors. And I think, again, this parallels more than with Jere and with Belly, where you're kind of like, with their whole breakup, to me, it felt very, like, calculated. And very different than, like, external things were happening and I made a mistake. It was more like, I'm the one who, like, caused these dominoes to be to fall in this way that caused the breakup and then caused the cheating mistake. You know,
because
it felt very different to me.
It is, because one is as you said, external factors unintentionally hurting a person.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, Jere is making the decision to intentionally hurt her.
Yeah. So I think that was also another stark contrast. And then we have to talk about the flashback, which I was most worried about. And it was just heartbreaking.
So devastating.
I think the Susannah Conrad conversation where Jere has stepped out. It's just the two of them. She's extremely ill. And it's kind of that deathbed conversation and promise.
Yeah.
Where he says, like, he's going to take care of Jere. And Susannah is saying, I think it's really interesting because she's like, I know you're going to be okay. And I know Jere's going to be okay because he has you.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, how is Conrad going to be okay?
It's too much.
Who's there for Conrad, though?
Yeah, I thought that too, because I thought not only does he get it from his father all the time, but also this expectation from your mother to kind of step up and take on more than you really ought to be handling at that age and stage of life. It's just too much. It's
too much. It was really heartbreaking. And I think him also being like, I'm not ready for this yet.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, unfortunately, like there was no more time.
Yeah.
So beautifully acted.
Yeah.
Absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I think, again, it puts all the pieces into places to why he's very much like, I really cannot necessarily go back on my word. He feels like it's so set.
Yeah.
And he really feels like he has such a responsibility to Jere. And I think this is why when other pieces fall, he's going to feel like, actually, that promise that I kept, like, there's other promises that I've also made that are just as important because Jere is not treating Belly the way he should be.
Yes.
You know, so this is why I think right now he feels like this, but I think once the cheating secret comes to light, he's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's not what I agreed to.
Yeah, seriously.
I agreed to, like, I want Jere to be happy, but only if he was like treating Belly correctly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So this is why I think he does feel like, oh, I can change the circumstances of that promise later.
Yeah. Should we then just talk about when they're sitting at dinner and Jere comes in?
Oh my
Honey, I'm home.
Diabolical. Actually, shivers went down.
I was so mad.
Because it was just such a... It was
so pleasant.
It was so pleasant. And I just think also, we haven't... the whole episode, I was just like gritting from ear to ear. I was like, this is so lovely. Nice.
Yeah.
And
then it's like jolt to reality.
Yeah, I just felt like a bubble bursting.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And then I really felt for Conrad. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, he had such a perfect day.
He did. And for it to end like this. And it's so harsh. And I did really feel like Jeremiah's actions in that scene were really kind of throwing Belly in Conrad's face.
I know.
And I didn't love that.
I know. And I think now looking back at a couple of the other episodes, I also feel like just some of the wording that Jere has used, again, it just makes it feel more like he's won.
Like it's a
Belly.
Competition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I really hate how that's being framed. I'm like, how much is it that you actually love Belly versus you want the thing that Conrad had wanted?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that it's a little murky there.
Yes.
And I hated how he strolled in there. You know, he thanked Conrad for helping, but it was in a really like...
It didn't feel like super authentic, heartfelt. And I also he didn't even really apologize for being absent for what Belly had to go through.
And he almost seemed a little agitated that like Belly didn't wait.
Yeah.
And I was like, excuse me.
Yes.
By the end of the episode, I was really done with Jeremiah.
And even when she's like, we got peaches for you, and he's like, do you have strawberries instead? And that felt loaded with meaning because it's like, here she is thinking of you, trying to serve you, trying to do things for you, and you won't even accept it.
I know. And you know what? The other thing we have to talk about with the peaches, I think, which is so interesting, is like, Conrad literally is allergic to peaches.
And he's still right there with her.
He's still right there with her. And Jere is like, where's my strawberries at?
So rude.
Unbelievable.
Man. Okay, and then we also have to just talk about the end. The ending. Because, I mean, when, as you say, by the end of the episode, so fed up with Jeremiah because his conversation with Belly at the end is just the worst.
I
couldn't believe when he's telling Belly that my father is supporting us. Isn't that amazing? My father is going to pay for our wedding. All we have to do is have it at the club and invite all these corporate people. And that's what you do in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And it comes across as so manipulative and so thoughtless of your bride she's like, this is about us. Like, I want us to have a simple wedding with people we care about. I don't know any of these corporate people. I wanted to have it at the house.
Yeah.
And he's like...
I think the whole time, Belly made it very clear, like, even earlier in the episode, she's very much like, the thing that matters most is, like, we're just getting married with the people that we love.
Yeah.
And it just needs to be a small, intimate...
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't need to be this huge hoopla or, like, this huge thing.
Yeah.
She very much, like, she actually, in that sense, like, she's getting married for the right reasons.
Yes. Yeah.
And... I hate that, like, he really guilt-tripped her. Like, I think, Belly has heard all the insecurities with Mr. Fisher.
Yeah.
It's very valid, obviously, that Jere has been feeling, like...
Yes, it
we
is.
have such a rocky relationship. And so, by him mentioning, just 1 second mentioning, of course Belly is going to be like, I'll do anything, And so I hated that. Like,
it's just...
that whole framing was really, I felt very
It's really problematic, and it's really, on her side, I think, ought to make her take pause, because if he's willing to use something like that to just get what he wants all the time, that's not a recipe for a good marriage and relationship. And I think, as you say, like, it just feels very calculated, like, oh, if I just drop this about my dad, like, we'll get whatever I want. And as you say, feelings are valid in that he's struggled a lot with this. But in this instance, you should be thinking about Belly. You should be thinking about what's best for you two as a couple. She should be your priority and not your father in the situation.
I know. And I think it reminded me a little bit of, we talked last time where, Belly was kind of like, if we're going to do this, we need to do it on our own.
Yes.
And she was kind of like, I thought that's what we were doing. Like, I haven't been working my butt off, like, for then your dad to just enter, who has been completely, like, not involved.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting because, you hear Jere mention about Kayleigh.
That she's going to plan the wedding.
And you can see a little flicker of recognition.
Belly's face.
And as you might recall, Conrad had told Belly, right?
Yeah.
Like, over the phone as they were getting closer when he was back in college about the whole affair. So she does know, and Jere doesn't know. So I did feel like there was a little bit baked in there too of her being like, oh my gosh, like, I know about Kayleigh, he doesn't know, and I also need to, like, allow this because like, there's about to be a bombshell. I don't know. I thought that was interesting, and I think things are really going to come to a head, I think, now that she'll be involved.
For sure. And I thought that detail was really interesting too, and I'm so curious to see how it plays out, because in one sense it's like, that's the last person in the world you would want planning your wedding.
I thought it was crazy how Belly, and I think, again, this is just, like, when she's with Jere, it's, like, everything is warped. How she was, like, at the end, she was like, I think Susannah would have wanted this. I'm like, no, you knew exactly what she wanted, like, at the house, like, with the flowers. Like, it's going to be totally impersonal. It's exactly what Susannah would have hated. Yeah. And actually, Susannah wanted to...
Yes. Yeah, and as you said, like, the last person in the world who should be planning a wedding that Susannah would want is the one who was having an affair with her husband behind their back while she's having cancer.
I think, again, it's like she just feels like she has to, almost the way that sometimes Conrad will kind of do whatever it takes for Belly.
Yes.
Like, Belly is doing that for Jere in some cases. But it's not reciprocal, so this is the issue.
Yeah.
Because Belly would move things night and day, I feel like, for Conrad as well, if she knew. Yeah. But I just think for Jere, he's unwilling to be moved even a little.
Yes.
I think, again, that whole cacao, like, that that is iconic dialogue, but diabolical. How I did not even know he knew that.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Like, when did he become so pretentious?
I'm like, you care that much about the cake and you hardly care about any other detail?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me, and I do feel like it's a little bit of a very different characterization of Jeremiah from the previous 2 seasons. I feel like in the last 2 seasons, he's always come across as a super chill, cool guy, right? So I feel like this detail of him being like this is very interesting, and I wonder if it's intentional characterization, obviously to, I think, make Conrad make that contrast stronger. But I think also putting him more in line with his father of this is the kind of corporate world that he has now become a part of. This is the kind of jargon maybe that he's speaking in the business. Like he's kind of taking on this persona of this corporate kind of person.
Yeah, I took it more as like this is such a frivolous thing, so of course he would be so like
maybe.
I just think like sometimes he gets so fixated on things that don't matter as much. Because I'm kind of like he's like I'm willing to go into credit card debt for the cake, but you weren't willing to do that for your other elements. Yeah, I'm like unbelievable.
It's really wild.
I think Jenny was trying to portray again like there's certain things that he like fixates on. It doesn't really matter. He doesn't have good full picture awareness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because even him saying like we'll just put it on the card. So immature and not thinking about the future as he's very prone to not do in this season.
Yeah. So I am interested because Gavin, actually the actor for Jeremiah, has said in the past like that this episode is actually supposed to be the start of an arc for Jeremiah.
Oh, interesting.
And I am wondering... I am wondering... I don't know what he means by that, but I am wondering if the affair secret coming out is going to be a huge growth moment for Jeremiah. I don't know if Jenny... like. I think that there's going to be something here because it's like he is finally getting his dad's attention, right? He's like a dog lapping at the bowl for the attention. And because of all the previous experiences, you know, he's eating it up. So I get that. Yeah. And I think once that
bubble is burst.
Yeah. I think that there could be some real development that occurs there, maybe.
That makes sense, yeah, because I have wondered how he comes back from this. Because I think this season and this episode in particular, in my mind, and I think many others, he's become so unlikable. Yeah. And his actions and the way he's treating others, I'm like, how do we walk this back?
I will say in the book, there's some things where it's even worse.
Yeah.
I actually feel like they've softened some. It's just hard to see it play out.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly more that it's that Conrad has developed so much.
That's true.
Versus it's not actually maybe out of character for Jere as much as he's just not developing as much.
Yes.
And he just hasn't done some of the same work. And so I do think it's possible that there will be an arc. If they have something with the affair secret coming out and then he confronts his dad, it would be interesting if the wedding fell apart in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, and I can see what you're saying if once he realizes, like, my father is not... Kind of similar to how Conrad says... Conrad says that his dad was his hero until he realized the man that he was.
Yes.
So it's clear to see Jeremiah just hasn't really realized yet the man his father is. So maybe that will be what he needs to...
A wake-up call, and then for him to be like, I don't want to be my father.
Yeah.
And I need to...
step up.
Reflect. Yeah. Change things about myself, and also not marry this girl.
Yeah. Like, we need to make drastic changes here.
So I'm wondering if that will be the wake-up call.
Yeah.
I think let's quickly discuss... I am a little bit confused, I think, about some of the other subplots.
Yes.
I think Denise and Steven had some really cute moments in this episode, and I'm terribly confused because I feel like their relationship is really progressing. They had some really awesome like banter, and they're both into gaming, and they were playing his game, and
so cute.
Yeah, and the Amtrak. There's connections there.
There's connection, and it feels like they connect with each other on this deeper level of like having very similar interests and ideas and things.
I would prefer that Steven ends up with Denise. I don't believe this is what is going to happen. I actually think that they're a more mature, better fit for one another.
I feel like they bring out a nice side in each other, and I really like that they have all these points of connection where they can really relate and connect with each other. And I think, especially in this episode, seeing kind of both of their realization of that in each other and being like, oh, wait, we have a lot of similar interests. We're able to connect in this way. I thought was really cool. But then, as you say, it is confusing because where is this going?
I don't know where it's going. And I'm also confused as to whether Denise is still supposed to be an option for Jeremiah later on. And I just don't see it with how they're building it. And so... I need to keep my eye on that. I think I would actually love Steven and Denise to end up together. Yeah. And they actually bring out like a softness in Denise. I think like she really matches like his like work ethic and like a lot of the things that he's really curious about. And like I feel like she's gonna encourage him to actually like start his own like gaming company or something. Yeah. Like I think he's gonna be the one to push him, and that will be really cool. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just really curious. To be honest, I don't feel like Jere would be the right counterpart for her. No. Unless he really makes a dramatic change. And maybe she could be the one to like, she would not
slap him into the line.
She would not take any man-child behavior from this boy.
You're right. So you're right.
I do think if anyone could pull it out of him, but I don't see it right now.
I don't see it either.
The other scene I also wanted to talk about is the scene with Conrad and Belly back at the house where she is looking
out the window.
Yes. And I think that this scene is actually really important because immediately it did give me a little bit of a Paris kind of environment.
I thought so too.
And then I think Jenny has really established Sabrina the movie as being a big inspiration for this season, specifically with all the posters and everything. Yeah. And I think what's really interesting is like in Sabrina, the character, she goes to Paris at the end and then the older brother like comes to Paris and that's where he declares like his love for her.
Yes.
So to me, I'm wondering if we're going to get a parallel scene with this at all, with like her being on an actual balcony in Paris or something. Yeah. And Conrad is like comes to Paris or something. Like, I don't know. I just got real Paris future.
For sure.
Kind of like flash forward almost.
Yes.
And I felt like just that image was just so interesting that Jenny would include something like that.
Yeah.
What was your thought?
I agree, because I feel like you can see Belly like leaning and you can like see the Eiffel Tower right there. Right? Like in that window space.
I just can already imagine like when she's in Paris is going to be an exact scene almost. I don't know if Conrad will actually be there, but like I just feel like there's going to be a perfect parallel. It's going to be really epic.
I absolutely see that too. I absolutely see that too. And I also thought even just calling back when this might have been in the last episode when Susannah is talking about how the wallpaper was from Paris.
Exactly. There's so many nods to it.
There's so many nods to Paris, and just that this has been like in the mix.
Yes.
From the time Belly was a child, right? Like this inspiration of kind of Paris in her mind. So I think there are a lot of nods to this and it's leading up to something. I'm curious to see what it does.
I think so too. I think Paris is really very much like her like developing. Yeah. And like just it's gonna be a huge growth moment for her. Yeah. So I'm really hoping my girl gets there soon.
Yeah. 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 Should we talk about predictions for next episode then?
Yes. I do think that the title of the next episode, it's possible Last Promise is still in the play. Yeah. But I'm actually wondering, I think a main plot point of the next episode is going to be the bridal shower.
Yes.
And because of that, I'm wondering if we're going to get a title that is more to do with a party. Yeah. So I'm putting in my top maybe prediction. Yeah. Is going to be like Last Hurrah.
Oh.
Something that would speak to like a party type thing. But Last Hurrah is also like, I think that can have multiple meanings as well.
Yeah.
So that is what I'm thinking. I'm also thinking Last Promise could totally still be in the mix. Maybe Last Call, I think you also shared beforehand. Yes. And I'm wondering if we might get a call between Laurel and Conrad. Yes. As opposed to him visiting in person.
Yeah.
And maybe then it would be a nod to that. Yeah. And it would be Conrad, telling Laurel, like, Belly is so distraught. You have to come to the bridal shower if you're able to.
Trying to mend that fence for them.
Yeah, but I'm curious your prediction.
Yeah, I was thinking similar. I was thinking Last Call could be something for this episode, especially if there's a phone call between Conrad and Laurel, which I do think is probably coming up in this episode. I also was thinking along the party kind of vibes. I was thinking Last Toast. So similar to your Last Hurrah.
Yeah, it's Last Toast could be good.
Toast. Or so I was thinking like Last Call, Last Toast.
Last Toast. Okay, I can see that. Yeah. But we're thinking kind of similar
things. Yeah, especially if there's like the bridal shower kind of party. Or I think even if it doesn't happen in this episode, if the next episode is the bachelor party, I think last call could work really well for that. If there's, you know, last call at the bar.
I think so too.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Last Wish, I think we'll still get maybe this season, but I don't know if it would be the next episode.
Yeah.
But I think if they did have the flashback of her getting the unicorn, the glass unicorn, maybe that could tie in a little bit.
I think Last Wish also could work really well when she's in Paris.
Oh, sure.
I feel like that gives Paris vibes.
Okay, so we're still thinking maybe last hurrah or last toast.
I think so.
We'll see. I've been
over 5. Yeah.
I'm thinking for the actual content of the next episode, I think we're going to get a little bit of Belly's perspective of the peach scene, honestly. A callback, or like maybe she'll dream and reminisce about it too.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to get a little bit more in her head about like, well, that was like a pretty intimate moment. And I'm starting to feel things. Things are starting to bubble back up, and they're not really supposed to.
Yes.
I think we'll get like some apartment hunting.
Yeah, with her and Jeremiah.
And, you know, they also talked about like her going
to Boston.
Weekend. Yeah, so maybe there'll be a little bit in Boston as well.
Yeah.
I think we'll get maybe her and Taylor again, like bridal shower planning. And then I think we'll get another kind of like breakdown a little bit where she's like really upset about her mom not being there. And so then I think it will segue to then him either calling or visiting Laurel. They're going to have a heart to heart.
Yeah.
I also wonder in that conversation if he would reveal that he lost his job to Laurel as well.
Yeah.
Because they really have a closer relationship as well.
Yeah.
And it would be nice for him to get some encouragement from her as well, I think.
Yeah.
And then I think we'll have the bridal shower. I'm wondering if we'll get the surfing accident with Conrad in this episode or in the next episode.
Yeah.
But I feel like that could happen. It could end with her like helping him, and then she's like a little conflicted.
Yes. Yeah, I pretty much agree with all of this. I'm thinking similar timelines of exactly what you're saying. And I feel like we'll just get a lot of her kind of realizing her own feelings for Conrad. Yeah. And then I think also her feeling this frustration and tension with Jeremiah.
Yeah.
I feel like he's probably going to continue to drop the ball. She'll be continuously getting more frustrated and like, why isn't he investing in me? Why isn't he prioritizing our relationship? And seeing that contrast of, wait, but here's somebody who is prioritizing me and serving me, and he's not even with me.
And I think the wedding is going to start to get more out of control with the planning. And she's going to start to be like, what even is this wedding? This is not what I imagined or wanted. Yeah. You know? So it's going to just start to get off the rails.
Well, exactly. Especially with Adam and Kayleigh coming in, you know, guns blazing with the corporate wedding, and she's like, this is not at all what I wanted. Yeah. And why doesn't Jeremiah even care?
I know. Yeah. So I think we'll get those scenes. I'm also interested if we'll get maybe a Steven Belly conversation, just because we still haven't really gotten that.
Yes.
Post the engagement news.
Yeah.
Maybe after the bridal shower.
Yeah. It is interesting because I think I loved this episode 5 so much because it centered so much on just the core trio, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we want and love. And there really was hardly any of the side plots. And I didn't really miss them that much. Yeah. But I do think they do add a lot, and all the characters and cast are great. So it'll be interesting to see how they start feeding that back in again, I think, after this kind of standalone episode of Conrad's point of view.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm also curious. I feel like Jenny has kind of addressed a little bit. Well, some people have been curious about T Swift songs not being in some of these previous episodes. Yeah. And she's kind of been like,
just keep watching.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of like, oh, it does seem very intentional, actually, maybe that there haven't been.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be closer to when the wedding falls apart and like Belly is more. I almost wonder if it'll be the Paris episode that like reintroduces
maybe
T Swift kind of into the
soundscape.
Although
I can totally see if there's a bridal shower, paper rings being
I know
there.
You still really
I can see it.
So you think paper rings will be in the next episode?
I think it's possible, but I agree with you that I think especially this season, like Taylor Swift songs have been for very emotional kind of moments, so maybe it wouldn't fit. And I do feel like the soundscape of this season has felt particularly nostalgic and a lot of throwbacks.
Yeah.
And Taylor's music doesn't quite fit into that, you know, which totally makes sense. Yeah. Whereas I think the last 2 seasons, it's been a lot more characterized by a bit more of like a poppy kind of feel for some of it. And so I think it is interesting, and I think I can't fault her music choices at all. They've all been on par, like fantastic.
Linger was really,
Linger
I was
was
not
so
anticipating.
good.
Yeah, I was hoping, I thought there was gonna be, you know, a throwback like that.
It's and just the lyrics of these kinds of songs, they so speak exactly to the heart of like what's going on in Conrad's mind.
Yes.
I felt like for this episode in particular, like all these songs, even the opening song and everything, like these arms like yearn for you, and then even like the Jackson 5, like I Want You Back.
Yes,
it's like every song is so intentionally picked to kind of even give us a deeper insight into what's going on in his head, and it all worked so well.
I think you're right. I think we will get a more emotional song maybe when Belly is like distraught about the bridal shower.
Yeah.
Her mom coming.
What are you thinking?
Maybe. I don't know. It needs to be not really a breakup song. It needs to just be like...
Do you know what I'm thinking?
Oh.
Because I'm thinking similarly. I feel like we need a song about yearning and kind of conflict.
It's not a T-Swift song.
My idea is a T-Swift song. I don't know if it'll be it. But I feel like if there were to be a Taylor Swift song to speak into this time.
To do with her mom?
Well, just to deal with her kind of inner conflict.
Her inner conflict.
I mean, it's not super obvious. Oh, that's a nice one. No, I was thinking maybe the Archer could work kind of well.
That could be good.
Because I feel like the sound of it could work. I know. I feel like it could be quite powerful.
Tolerate it with Jere.
I thought Tolerated, but I was like, Tolerated is very strong.
I know, that's a little... Yeah.
I was like, maybe that's a little bit too strong. Kind of like, I was like, Better Man, maybe a little bit too strong.
I still thought we might get Babe, but no.
I know, but I think the sound of it, maybe not. So I had thought Tolerated, but I was like, I think that's maybe pushing it a little bit too far, but I thought something like The Archer could fit. She uses a lot of songs from Lover.
Yeah,
and I feel like the sentiments of it, of even her being like, I've been the archer, I've been the prey.
Yeah,
and who could ever leave me, darling, but who could stay?
Aww.
And just this kind, I feel like The Archer is like combat. I'm ready for combat. Like it's kind of
the friction,
this friction and tension within yourself.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I wonder, and I feel like the sound of it is. I don't know. Yes. I feel like it could work.
The sound could totally work. Okay, interesting. I still feel like I almost do at some point would be fantastic for me, but I digress.
And she's using a lot of Red songs this season.
She is. Yeah. I do really think a Lizzie McAlpine song, we're just one episode away every time. We're just one episode away every time, and I'm just... Maybe it's the finale.
Maybe.
Lola loves Lizzie. It has to make it.
I know.
I'm sad.
It'll get in there.
Yeah. I think we'll also get like a cuter, more upbeat song for the bridal shower, maybe.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I feel like that'll be a throwback, maybe. I still think Infinity, I mean, I'm really putting it out there. Infinity 1D, that would be the cherry on the top.
Yeah.
At some point.
The cherry on the top.
It's literally like that is, I feel like that is such a Conrad Belly song. And with the I mean, the cinematography would be unbelievable.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed.
You never know.
But yeah, I think those are our main thoughts. It was so cool, I think, to hear it from Conrad's perspective.
Yeah.
Next episode.
I am too. And I do feel like this was a standout episode. I feel like for me, just everything about it, the pacing, the cinematography, just the acting and the way that the scenes developed, I thought everything was just like exemplary.
It felt like a little mini like movie.
It did.
A rom-com.
It did. And it just felt very sweet. And
I know.
And also, I mean, I think it walked the line really well of being sweet, but also this underlying sadness. Because you know that it's not actually, it feels almost not real, right? And he's like, this, I don't have her. And
that's why it's so punctured when he's like, I almost forgot, it's not me. And even the lady at the store thought it was us. Like, you know. Yeah. It's a gut punch.
It is. And he plays it so well. So hat off to you, Chris Briney.
And
fantastic.
Lola.
And Lola. Yeah. I thought really, really beautiful all around. And huge for Jenny Han. Like, she was all over this episode, right? Like, directing, writing. Like,
I really
her hand was all it. And I feel like it really comes across. And yeah, I'm hopeful that we get this kind of energy through the rest of the season. I know we won't have it in the same way, but I'm like, oh, this is the show that I love.
And I almost am wondering if it's a turning point so that we will get a little bit more of Conrad from here on out.
It would be interesting, right?
Feels like we woke up.
Yes.
Like the Conrad like narrative.
Yeah.
Because it's been such bits and pieces, but now he's like. He's in Cousins. He's there. You know, so I'm really hopeful.
I'm curious to see how that will play out. Like, are we just going to go straight back to Belly? Yeah. Could we get interjections from both Jeremiah and Conrad now?
Honestly, I don't think this is going to happen. It would be super interesting, honestly, to have an episode where it was more from Jere's perspective.
It would. I mean, so
after the wedding falls apart, I mean,
when he's at the end of his character arc and he's like reformed. Okay, fine,
maybe a little bit.
Yeah, but maybe. I think Conrad, like, the episode was so lovely because he's so lovely, right?
Of course.
So we just want more.
Yeah. Okay, we're excited for episode 6.
Yeah. Coming up.
There's 11 altogether, actually.
I thought there was 10. Okay, this 11. Is what. Yeah. I think you're right. So we're like
more than halfway. Yeah.
Well, after 6, I guess we're more than halfway. Yeah. So, okay, cool. Well, thanks so much for watching. If you have any thoughts, reactions, predictions, we would love to hear them. So leave them in the comments. And if you're interested in this kind of content and would like to hear more of it, then would love for you to subscribe to the channel. We will be back to share our own thoughts on the next episode. So stay tuned for that. And we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.